Hello everyone, Pastor Ty here from FCC with some missional encouragement for you as you try to be regular everyday missionaries in your life and in your missional communities. I want to set up our conversation a little bit here first with a few questions. First off, I want to ask, what is your community? What missional community are you a part of, or what regular community are you a part of? This can be anything from something formal that ends up on the calendar, like maybe a sporting event or an activity for your children, or even just your coworkers, your neighbors. And then this can also be some more free-flowing organic things, people that you just kind of grew to know over time and you've just kind of created a little group together. I want to ask, for those communities, what do you all do together? And again, this can be something formal and planned, like maybe you've got a group that watches football or some other sport every week all together, and that's what you do. Or this can be something that changes from time to time. Maybe you do something different every week or every time you meet. And that leads me into my next question, which is a little weirder. I want to ask, what is the mission of your group, or what is the point of your group? And I don't want you to think that any groups are pointless, but some groups have a distinct point. Like I said, if you watch football every week with your group of friends, that's kind of the point of your group, is you watch football all the time. Or if your son or daughter is on a sporting event or a sports team, then the point of your group is to watch them play sports and to help them get better at their sport or activity. Some groups may feel a little less direct or less specific, and that's okay too. That maybe you do something different every time. That's totally fine. But I wanted to set up these few questions and get you thinking about your communities and your groups before I asked you this question. How do you worship with those groups? Now that's a weird question, because as the worship pastor is asking you, how do you worship? You might be thinking, well, I worship on Sundays when I watch church online or join in person, and there's a big band on stage and people sing and we follow along with the lyrics and we sing together, and that's worship. And while that is an expression of worship, that's not the only expression of worship. So I want to encourage you and challenge you to worship together with your communities, but don't think of it as worship in the ways that we think of it as on Sunday. Because I don't want you thinking that you have to figure out how to get 5 musicians and lyrics all into your living room or coffee shop to meet with your missional community together to worship together. That's not what I'm saying. Music is a great expression of worship, but really the expression of worship is not the music itself. It's the declaration of truths that come through the music, whether that be truths about God, or about how his love for us affects us, or how we turn back to him after sin, or what have you. But the worship actually comes through the lyrics and declaring that together. And so maybe music is the way that you want to worship with your missional community. I want to encourage you that if you've got someone who wants to lead that worship, that's totally fine. But maybe you don't have someone who's gifted with a musical ability or instrument, but you still want to worship with music. Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube are great resources to use. Here at FCC, we've actually got a playlist of all the songs that we sing on a regular basis here on Sunday. So if you're looking for songs to sing together, that's a great option to start out with. But maybe you think, music doesn't really fit with my group, or the group that I'm thinking of doesn't really want to sing together. That's totally fine. There's different ways that you can worship together in community. And actually, the first one is actually one that's pretty regularly involved in missional communities, is Discovery Bible Study. Studying the Bible together, learning together, teaching one another is a great way to worship together. Again, you're learning truths, you're declaring truths, you're teaching each other about who God is in community. That's worship. You can also pray with one another. Pray for each other, pray for yourselves, pray for your community, the world around you, your city. That's another great way to express worship together. Maybe as a group, you're looking to want to do something. You want to worship together, but it feels like you want to worship and do something with action. And so I'd encourage you to either give to an organization that makes sense for your group, or serve in a way that makes sense for your group. Again, worship can be an act of service, and that can be any multitude of things. Here at FCC, we've got plenty of ways that you can serve. One of the ones that impacts our community directly is Compassion Network. You can stop by once a month. We have a diaper drive that serves our community. You can come and serve at one of those events, and that can be an expression of worship for your missional community. But you can also find opportunities to serve outside of FCC and outside of the church. There are plenty of options and opportunities to serve. As I was walking through the park the other day, I saw a clinic for cats and dogs to get their vaccines, and it was volunteer help. There was a lot of volunteers who were checking in and making sure people had all the paperwork that they needed. Maybe your group of friends really loves cats and dogs, and that's the way that you want to serve, is by serving at one of those events. You can also walk through the neighborhood and pick up trash. That can be a great way to serve together, and you can pray while you're doing that. That's an excellent expression of worship. But whatever makes sense for your group, that's my encouragement for you today, is to worship in a way that makes sense for your community. Don't feel like you have to do this thing or that thing, or you have to have music because that's what worship is. That's not what we're saying. We're asking you to prayerfully consider, how can I worship with my missional community? How can I invite us into experiencing God in this way? And finally, I do want to leave you with one more piece of encouragement, is if you're doing the blessed rhythms in your missional community, that's actually a huge expression of worship. Beginning with prayer, listening to each other, eating together, serving one another and serving others, and then telling stories about what God has done. That is all worship as well. And so I hope this encourages you. I hope this helps. If you've got a great story about how your missional community is worshiping together, feel free to share that with us. We'd love to share that with the church as an encouragement as well. And of course, know that we're praying for you and hope that you're doing wonderful as you try to be a regular, everyday missionary in your life and in your missional communities.